Welcome back, everybody, to another Palms Up conversation. We are stoked that you're here. Today, we have with us an incredibly special guest. His name is Dan Korneychuk. Yay. Let's go. Dan. I am really excited about this conversation. Dan, as you know him, is an incredible leader. He is a massive force for leadership and stewardship in our church. And I would not be who I am today without my friendship with Dan. Over the past 6 years, we've gotten to know each other extremely well and have become really close friends. Him and his wife and daughter on a weekly basis, I wish it was daily, on a weekly basis, watch our son. And so you are becoming Auntie and Uncle Dan and Jenny. And so I'm super blessed by your presence in my life. Thank you for the things you've taught me. You've helped me grow so much as a leader, and I'm really excited for this conversation because in the realm of being palms up and surrendered and following Jesus with open hands, you lead this by example so well. Mm-hmm. So I'm stoked to get into it. Do you want to help intro this into this conversation? Any startups here?
Dan, you know we love you.
I love you right back, both of you.
So Dan, I just want to know about your life. I wish we had like 3 hours to just sit and hear everything, but as much as you can, just tell us a little bit about where you're from, what brought you from there to here, and how'd you get to Bel Air?
Okay, yeah. It would take a lot of time to go through all of my years, but I'll try to skip a few years along the way. But born and raised in Montana.
Wow, I didn't know. See, this is what I mean.
Seriously?
This is what I mean.
I didn't know that.
Know that?
I need to know everything.
Oh my
goodness! Yeah, the Big Sky Country, man.
Whoa.
Wow.
Okay,
continue. I wasn't going to go this far back, but I was born in a town called Ekalaka, Montana.
Okay. Ekalaka.
Which, of course, is a Native American name.
Oh, incredible.
Way in the southeastern part of Montana, like 500 people in town.
Wow.
Soon, really, well, I don't want to give you that much detail. Anyway.
We're going out after this. We're going out to lunch after this.
We need the extended version after this.
Not too long after my birth, we moved to a metropolis. That's Billings, Montana.
Wow.
Which was like 100,000 people.
Wow. Okay, that's good.
But certainly more city atmosphere than little Ekalaka. So went to high school there in Billings and then went to my first 2 years of college in Billings at Rocky Mountain College.
Let's go.
That's not Rocky Mountain High.
There you go.
That's Rocky Mountain College. As a music major.
Yeah.
And during that time, I really felt like ministry was where I was headed.
Yeah.
Vocationally, felt like that was a call in my life at that point. And so I started looking about other places where I could more effectively study for that direction. So long story short, I ended up at Biola University in Orange County.
Let's go.
Or is that in Los Angeles County? Anyway, it's way down there.
Yeah, sure.
Almost Orange County. Bible Institute of Los Angeles originally, in case you're wondering what that is.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you're going to learn all sorts of things.
This is the greatest conversation.
No, seriously. Like, how are we just now
Dan.
having this conversation?
All right. So anyway, I was a vocal music major in college.
Okay.
But shortly after I got to Biola, my voice teacher said, hey, there's a choir director job open at a little evangelical free church up the street. And I thought, wow, am I ready for that? Kind of a big deal. I had been involved in church music since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, but so I went and started. They hired me part-time while I was full-time at college at Grace Evangelical Free Church in La Mirada, and that was the first place where I was not just choir director, but began to develop the skills of writing a worship order, or as we would say in other language, liturgy.
Liturgy.
It was a very free style of worship, of course. But anyway, that's how I started.
Okay.
And then when I graduated from college, I had the privilege of being immediately hired full-time as a minister of music at Peninsula Covenant Church in Redwood City, California. So moved up to Northern California. After 4 years there, became a Presbyterian. Went to First Presbyterian Church in Salinas.
Cool.
And that was a big multi-choir program. We had a youth choir that was at different times between 50 and 70 high school students.
Oh.
Wow.
We went on an annual choir tour. While I was there, that choir celebrated its 50th anniversary.
Let's
Wow.
It had been around for a while.
Wow.
So that was a really wonderful, diverse experience there. And I was in Salinas for 10 years. And then I was for a while at a Quaker church,
Well, okay.
Friends Church,
Let's go.
Granada Heights Friends Church in La Mirada, while I was doing some graduate study at USC in choral music. And then I took a break from ministry for about 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And I was a financial services consultant.
Oh, I know this part. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which was an interesting transition. I felt like I was still in a helping ministry because I would sit down across the table from mostly teachers and school administrators and help them decide how to save for retirement.
Sure. Wow.
And,
Were these just natural skills you happen to have because you were a music major?
music and math.
Yeah.
You don't want to trust me with no.
Okay,
That's
well,
just your brain, bro.
For a lot of us, music and math.
Music
For
and
some of
math.
us, music and engineering.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway,
That's
no,
cool.
before I decided to go into ministry and church music, I was planning on being a CPA.
Oh, okay.
public
okay, yeah,
accountant. So I had the math kind of skills
Totally.
along with the interpersonal skills of being in ministry. It actually worked out quite well.
Nice.
And then after that 8-year period, I was antsy to get back in ministry. I knew that was really where I needed to be. So, so then I was, for another 8 years, I was, it was a crazy long title, but basically I was minister of music at Irvine Presbyterian Church
Yep.
in Orange County.
Okay.
And then I was feeling like that was coming toward the end of what I needed to do there. And through a rather random connection, I found out that there was a position open at Bel Air Church. And so I kind of on a whim applied.
There you go.
And I was for director of traditional worship. And lo and behold, they hired me.
Yeah. Well, your resume is like 2-3 pages at this point of
I
all these different
know.
churches and these experiences. I feel like looking at your resume, I'm hearing it and I'm like, goodness gracious.
That's so cool. But it all makes sense. Like it all tracks. Because
Yeah.
I think when you see somebody who's so just awesome and talented like you, who's obviously experienced, who obviously carries a wealth of knowledge, it just makes you wonder, like, how did they get here? How do they know so much? You know what I mean? So it's really cool to hear that trajectory.
A lot of experience, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was originally at Bel Air for 11 years and then retired,
Yeah.
quote unquote,
Yep.
in 2022.
2022.
Yeah. Partially because my wife Jenny got a job in Boston. And at the Boston Globe, starting a television show there. She's a very, very talented
Yep.
woman, as you know.
Yep.
And so I said, this is a good time for me to retire. And I did. We moved to Boston. I was there for 18 months. And then circumstances brought me back here.
Oh, goodness.
And so we live back in Los Angeles now. I've been back at Bel Air for 2.5 years now.
Wow.
Oh,
It actually
already.
seriously feels like a blink of an eye.
It's
since
really
you've
kind
been
of weird.
Yeah.
2.5 years.
Yeah, and we've been blessed to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's good to be here.
I mean, we all know. The people who know you know that you carry yourself in this really fun way. There was a podcast I listened to a while back that one of the kind of personas that they talked about in somebody you want on your team is a down Daniel. And and you, in fact, are literally a down Daniel. And the things that we have done, the things that where Pastor Drew has led us, these different iterations of the experience here at Bel Air, you have always been so open-handed while also bringing really clear feedback and a really, really critical thinking mindset to this on how can we really make sure that we steward this well. You as a person, I think you could probably attest to this as well, that we look up to you in the ways that you help support a team without commandeering the team. You're so incredible at the ways you steward that. And that's the same with relationships. I feel like I can always trust that you'll share an honest feedback with me while also feeling so encouraged every time I leave a conversation with you. And I think for me, I've witnessed just so much gospel in your life, the way that you carry yourself. So I wonder if that's the same way you've experienced them, I'm sure. But after, I would love for you to share, your thoughts on that. And then I would love for you to tell us what kind of guides you that leads to the reputation that you have here in your relationships on being this kind of palms up leader.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like you have such a stable and calming presence. And I think that is so the essence of the Father's heart, and your ability to just see people and love people and not rush through people, And it's really awesome because, I'm speaking of that in terms of God, the Father's heart, but also I have the awesome opportunity of knowing your daughter, Maddie, who thinks so highly of you, Dan.
Come on.
Like she thinks so highly of you. And it just blessed my heart to hear her attest to like everything a father would want his child to attest to. Like she just Dan is up here and everybody else is down here. And I think it's just so beautiful because, as an actual father, you guys, you're going through the ups and downs of life. It's not always pretty, but for somebody to be able to speak that well of you who sees you every day. Like that is a beautiful thing. And I agree with Jamison in that, like, we get to experience that same heart from you. And I think everybody knows that, like, when Dan's in the room, there is just this sense of calm, everything's gonna be all right. You know what I mean? And so to Jamison's point, like where does that come from? How do you sort of lead a life with that posture?
Well, I'm going to have to give Maddie a raise because that's nice of her to say all those great things. Touches me, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, these long pauses, you're used to long pauses with me because, I'm a slow processor, as you know.
I love them. I've come to absolutely value them and treasure them,
Seriously.
honestly.
What is he going to say?
Yes.
I hope that what you're describing comes from growing more and more over the years with a deep knowledge that God is present at all times, and that God is sovereign, and that whatever circumstances we're going through at the moment are circumstances, and they will pass, and it is much more important that the people who are going through these circumstances together love and care for each other than it is that circumstances get steered in exactly the way I want them to be.
Wow.
And when it comes to ministry in the church, I feel like since I'm called to a particular ministry and a particular church body at a particular time, that I want to be open to whatever way it is that God wants to use me in that situation, and I want to submit to the leadership of those who have even higher responsibility for that congregation, which ultimately is the senior pastor, at least in a Presbyterian church, and the session, because that's the leadership body. And so I want to be slow to speak, which comes naturally to me, I think. Either that or, I don't know, maybe that's something the Lord has cultivated in me too. But I also want to be, or I should say, I always want to be sensitive to what's happening in the lives of people that are around the table.
Yeah.
Or for instance, in the choir that I direct.
Yeah.
I think if we were able to go back and watch a videotape of me in my first full-time church ministry in Redwood City with the choir and the interactions with the choir, and now, I think there would be quite a difference.
Wow.
I think I was considerably more demanding. I think I was more impatient with people, because I was so fired up about doing this ministry and doing it well and doing it with excellence that I assumed that everybody could give the same amount of energy and time and effort to it.
Wow.
And what I didn't give credence to is that people have lives and there's stuff going on in those lives. And I see them for a very small sliver of what their life is like. And so I think I'm much more sensitive now, both just through years of experience and I hope through the fact that our sanctification, our becoming Christ-like, is a long, slow process, and I hope that I'm becoming more Christ-like every year.
Love that.
And that comes out in how I treat people and how I have conversations, especially when it comes to leadership conversations or hard conversations with individuals.
Yeah. That's so good.
But a lot of it is grounded in hope, I think, because I see always in the back of my mind is the hope that God is working his purposes out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't depend on me to accomplish all those purposes, but I want to be in the stream with those purposes, and then know that even when things look pretty bad sometimes, God is still on the throne, and ultimately there's going to be all the things we hope for: peace and joy and healing and reconciliation and all those things that are the purposes of God that he's working out among us.
That's so good.
So good.
The slowness is this beautiful wisdom, not just by God just straight up blessing you with the wisdom, but because of the grace that's been on your life over the different ministries that you've led. And you can sense that in your presence when you're around, that there is this multitude of experiences that you've had that have led you to be able to understand a bit of a higher perspective than what sometimes we operate in the urgent, right? And there's a song by Southeastern University, their worship team, that seems as though the slower I go, the faster I arrive. And it's this beautiful juxtaposition to what we see in culture, where it's the rush, especially in a city like Los Angeles or New York, or wherever you are in that way, where things are faster. There's more pressure. There's more competition. There's more people. There's more to even get up from your house to your work. You're fighting for your lane. You're fighting for your place in traffic on a regular basis. Yeah. And so that is, I think it's a blessing that we have our meetings where if we ask you something, we have a second to process what we just said before we move on. And I think all that is just allowing us to be present there in the moment, rather than, I think I can easily travel in my brain to the circumstance, even if I'm not in it. I can take my brain. I think maybe a lot of people can go, and even if they're in the room physically with somebody, their brain is 4 days ahead somewhere else with other people stressing because something has happened in their imagination that has not happened yet, right?
Yes.
And so there is this beautiful call for the Lord when the Lord speaks, don't worry about tomorrow. It is this moment of be present here in the now, not just because tomorrow has enough worries of its own, but in my understanding is that this is the ministry. This is the blessing, is our time, is our presence here now together. Well, before we started this conversation, we were talking about how God in and of himself is community, that you cannot live the walk of the Lord without community around you. That is what he led by example, and it's what we do. And so I wonder for you, looking at our church, what do you, with all your experiences at your other churches, what do you hope for with Bel Air Church for the future and how we steward our relationships with one another?
Wow, that's a big question.
I went full like hot wings on it, like, long lead up.
Yeah.
We'll take a bite of this, the bomb sauce real quick.
Yeah, that was a hot one. Well, I mean, I guess my hope and prayer for us at Bel Air Church is what it would be for any congregation that claims Jesus as Lord. And that is that we would more and more, not just as individuals, but as a body, reflect the true image of Jesus. The Jesus who reached out to the least of those. And that, of course, includes those who are in physical need. I think our Bel Air Rebuilds ministry is an incredible mission.
Absolutely.
Growing out of the vision that Drew had, immediately after the fires in Los Angeles, and the way that's expanding into a ministry of bringing food to people who need it all over the city.
Yeah.
And that's certainly a big part of it. But a part that applies to every human being is that we differ in many ways. But none of us differ in being outside of the love and embrace and welcome of Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I hope and pray that we can continue to open our doors wider and wider. I think we have a hurdle to overcome. We've had it for 65 years now, or is it 70 now? I lose track.
70.
Yeah.
It is 70 this year,
70.
isn't it? Yeah, 70 years. We have, I think, what initially might have been a benefit, but I think now is a hurdle for us,
Wow.
is our name, Bel Air Church. Because I think those who hear about this church from around our city, a first impression can be, oh, that's up there, Bel Air. That's the rich folks up there. And that would not be something the general population, not only the fact that they have to come a ways to get to Bel Air Church, but also just the fact that we've identified with Bel Air. But when you know us, all of us have experienced that our church is quite a diverse community, more and more so, and that a lot of folks could find a home here, a spiritual home here.
Yep.
And so we have to keep finding ways to let people know that, hey, the church is for all.
That's good.
And I just hope that embrace can be growing all the time, and that every time somebody shows up on this campus, that we can reach out in true hospitality to people. Let them know from the moment they come on this campus that they are loved by God
Yeah.
and welcomed by us. And then let the Holy Spirit do the rest.
Yeah.
And you lead that so well by example. And I think that,
thanks.
I think it is an example for all of us of how can we do that more? How can we see beyond just our own selves, our own circumstances, to know that what's really important today is, how did I make this person feel? Did I welcome them? Did I remind them of God's love that's always present? And I think in the slowness, in the pauses, it allows us to take those opportunities and recognize those opportunities more. So thank you for just doing that so well.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think you mentioned earlier it was way back, you were talking about how people have lives, right? And what we've come to learn, and more recently had the same mindset as you had in Redwood City. I am in my Redwood City era right now.
That's because you're a youngster.
and I'm thankful for you. My God, I'm so thankful for you in my life because I'm immediately learning these things, right? Like the conversations we have, I'm immediately growing so quickly out of this kind of smaller mindset of what it is to be a part of ministry. And I'm expanding what that looks like. And part of that is understanding that every single person carries the gospel with them wherever they go. And somehow that didn't click to me before, that somehow I thought maybe just in service is the only ministry that exists, is Sunday mornings at this time. And, and it's only done this way with this genre of music or whatever it is, this liturgical, worship order, right? And so what I pray is that people in our church would grow in their understanding practically of how to walk out the gospel in their lives where they're at, right? And because we are not necessarily a community church. While we are named Bel Air Church, people come from all over Los Angeles and beyond to be able to be here. Even in Paris, we have people, watching online. And so Paris, France, not Texas or Tennessee. But I know that we're doing that work. I know that we are teaching people how to speak to their friends, how to care for them, how to be the hands and feet of Jesus, how to embody the gospel of Christ in their lives. And you and Jenny really have done such a great job of that. We keep saying you've done such a great example. Pressure's on to keep doing it, but it's incredible every time I speak to Jenny too, that there are things that I learn that shift my perspective on what the amount of love and blessing is on people that God wants to give, and that God is so in the working on everybody's lives in a way we can't see. And so that's my hope as well for the future, is that we don't just, I think, allow this campus to be a hub where we throw out the banners and we go, come to us. While it is a refuge, the refuge also exists out. And I pray that we continue to stretch out, just like we're doing in Bel Air Rebuilds, our arms and our hands and our feet, and we equip our church to be able to really bring people in, to love them well, to be able to be the example of the gospel to them, so that people are not just aware of Christ, but they encounter the Holy Spirit in a real way in their lives through the ambassadors that are Bel Airians. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a hope for sure.
Dan, this is awesome. I feel so full after this conversation. So we just appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being a light, and more to come.
Yeah.
More to come.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate and love you both. And by the way, if you didn't know, Jenny is my wife.
That's Jenny. We're speaking of his wife.
Yes.
We have our next, this camera. Our next Palms Up night is July 26th. It's going to be at 7 p.m. Registration for that night opens on July 17th. It's just 9 days before the actual event. So get on it quick right then at 10 a.m. on July 17th. There's a limited amount of spots available. It's only 100 people that we're allowing to be there that day, just because of the capacity of the space. So we hope you would register, look on our website, go to the link in this caption of this video, and we will see you at the next Palms Up night very, very soon. Have a great day.